Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, telecom giant AT&T announces that it wants to abandon its landline system in Humboldt County, promising that while many Humboldt County residents have no stable cell phone service, those without other options will not be left without service. We'll see. Also, Humboldt County Sheriff William Honsal joins us to talk about a recent report on the Humboldt County Correctional Facility and the challenges faced when housing so many inmates. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. As many of you folks know, I've spent time in the Humboldt County Jail. No, it wasn't a PR tour, some tepid walkthrough where I viewed inmates through plate glass and kept my respectful distance. I was arrested, searched, stripped down, made to wear a rather ill-fitting orange jumpsuit, and then matriculated into a population of people that most prefer to forget about. It was uncomfortable. It smelled like industrial cleaner. The lights would dim but never really go out, and there were no doors on the bathroom stalls. It was extremely tough to stomach, especially given that I was going into withdrawal from opiate addiction, and everything in that moment consisted of fear and sweaty discomfort. Yet I wasn't mistreated. The guards were respectful if distant, and the food was mostly on time and hot. We were treated like human beings, though precautions had to be taken for everyone's safety. I'd committed a crime, and the County of Humboldt and the state of California had determined that this was the best place for me to be in that moment. Thank God they had. If I hadn't been forced to suffer those indignities and face up to what seemed then like serious consequences, I don't know that I ever would have gotten clean, and I don't know whether today, these years and years later, that my kids would still have a father. Those in authority seldom put themselves in a position to answer questions about such an institution from the very people who've been imprisoned there. Sheriff William Honsal, however, after a couple of recent jail-related tragedies and near misses, was willing to have such a conversation, and we'll bring that to you shortly. But first, the news. Many North Coast residents may lose their landline phone service over the next several months as telecom giant AT&T tries to get out from under its obligations to provide such services. The company has applied to the California Public Utilities Commission to have its designation as a carrier of last resort removed. This designation requires AT&T to provide wired phone service to home and business customers throughout its service area. If their application gets approved, many residents would lose their landlines and be left with only cellular or internet-based service. The company claims that maintaining analog service is a waste of money and resources, duplicating coverage. The area's impact would include parts of Eureka, Arcata, Fortuna, McKinleyville, Rio Dell, Trinidad, and smaller communities up and down the North Coast. Given the spotty cell phone coverage many of us experience on a daily basis, are we willing to trust that system with our lives and safety? I don't know. If AT&T's request is approved, another carrier could step in to provide those services, but such an outcome is far from guaranteed. AT&T has said it will maintain services for the few customers without access to alternative carriers, but many North Coast leaders aren't willing to let AT&T walk away. Quote, "This proposal leaves rural residents vulnerable and it's dangerous," State Senator Mike McGuire said. AT&T's idea to cast off their obligation and stop maintaining their network will literally take people's lifelines away. Here is our interview with Sheriff William Honsal about Humboldt County Jail, the importance of emergency landline services, and more. So we are once again joined in-house by Sheriff William Honsal, who's taken time out of his very busy schedule to meet with us today, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the impetus for calling this interview or whatever was basically that you guys issued sort of an annual summary or report. It's not really a formal report, but about the jail's activities. And I thought, that's not something I've really covered in depth. There's a lot of interesting numbers in there that I'd kind of like to get a bigger piece of and kind of understand a little bit better. But first, I mean, I know our viewers probably know who you are. You've been in office for a while now, and a lot of them have voted for you. But if you could sort of give us just a biographical sketch of how you ended up in law enforcement in Humboldt County and how you ultimately ended up as sheriff.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure being here tonight, and talking about the jail is something that I really, really enjoy doing. So thank you for having me. But a little bit about myself. This is my close to 7 years as being sheriff. I was appointed sheriff back in 2017, and I replaced Mike Downey, who retired. I've run twice now, unopposed, and so this is my second term being elected as sheriff. Being sheriff has so many different responsibilities throughout the county, and I'm very, very happy to have this position to try and make our county and community better. I grew up here. I went to Eureka High School, grew up on Humboldt Hill, and so I really feel like I want to just bring that kind of community mindedness, to everything that we do, and so making sure that number one, I'm accessible. Number one, that I'm constantly meeting with the community to discuss the needs, and to build trust within the sheriff's office is so important, because if, as the lead law enforcement official in the county, if people don't trust law enforcement, then trust in government overall erodes, and I don't want that to happen. So
absolutely,
yeah.
And I mean, not that this matters necessarily, but from reports I hear, you are a very accessible elected official, and that can't be said for a lot of folks.
So I appreciate you saying that. It's something that definitely I pride myself on. So thank you.
Now, before we get to the jail thing, real quick, I wanted to get your reaction to something we just reported on the show. So AT&T, I don't know if you've heard this or not, they're trying to basically pull out of doing landline service in swaths of the county. If we were a metro area, that might not be such a big deal because we'd have towers everywhere and there'd be great coverage. I live in Cutton, and there are parts of my own house where I can't have a phone conversation reliably. So as someone who is associated with, say, OES,
that's right,
or disaster preparedness, that sort of thing, can you talk a little bit about how important it is for people to have a landline option in case of an emergency, especially if power might be going down or things of that nature?
Absolutely. So the last resort line is what they're trying to get rid of, and their responsibility for that. And that is something that's totally, to me, a huge concern. It's a huge red flag, and it's a signal that somehow or another these businesses can pull out of their responsibility of providing communications to the rural parts of California.
I mean, there's not going to be profit in it. It's because it's small, there's not enough people, but at the same time, someone has to provide these services, right?
That's right. They absolutely do. And so we rely on these. This is so important. Right now, we're encouraging people to sign up for our Humboldt Alert system, which is a way for us to call people in an emergency. And so a lot of times in the rural areas, their landline is their way of contacting us in an emergency situation. So if there's a wildfire, if there's a flood, if there's a way of telling people to stay in their homes for a certain amount of time because of there may be a dynamic situation happening outside their homes, we call their homes, we call their landlines, their copper lines, and we say, hey, stay home, let us, or evacuate, we have a fire coming, whatever it may be. It's so important that we have those lines of communication open. By just saying that they want to abandon those lines and not having the responsibility, or just say, we want to, make sure that these people have some other means of communication. But as we've seen throughout California and all the disasters lately, redundant lines of communication are so important.
Exactly.
Even if you don't have a landline set up, you could still technically supposed to pick up that phone and call 911. It's supposed to work.
Yeah, because they still work, right?
Yes. And so I want that ability to still be there. And it's what's best for California. If they're having a hard time maintaining these, then there should be some kind of a federal funding or some kind of support for them to maintain some of these existing lines as the last resort. I agree. It's a lot of money, I'm sure, but also it's their business, right? It's their business, and they've relied on this business for a long time. And as a community, and as someone who's definitely involved in public safety, the sheriffs throughout the North State have met on this topic, and we continue to meet. We are going to meet with AT&T officials. And we're going to work with our groups to make sure that they hear us loud and clear that we all think this is a bad idea.
Excellent. There's some CPUSC meetings coming up, which we've already reported, so people can get a sense of that and go to the website and submit comments and find out when those hearings will be held so they can get their input in. I think that's vitally important that people do that. Now, so the jail. It's got to be a complicated thing to manage. I mean, just from the logistics aspects of it, the amount of people that go through there at any one time. I mean, you have total number of people booked was 6,189 in just 2023, with an average population of 276. Those are people. They're living, breathing people that have all the complications that go along with that sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit about how you wear that responsibility? I mean, it's not like you're managing when you manage an operation like you do with the sheriff's office, that's one thing, but there are on average 275 people who are dependent upon you, which has got to be a different kind of responsibility.
It absolutely is.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on here in the county, because we have a fantastic correctional facility. And though sometimes the circumstances surrounding people going to jail may be hard for some people to grasp, I call it the gift of jail, because sometimes people need that time to really pull themselves out of the situation they got in, to reflect on it, to provide programs and services to get them on their feet again.
Absolutely.
So it is something that when I took this job, I had no experience on whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I dove into that and found out that it is a great community. To look at our leadership that we have in our correctional facility and the people, the correctional deputies that are currently assigned there, and they're doing a fantastic job offering care and custody of that facility and the inmates.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people all the time, they drive by 4th and 5th Street, we see that big kind of monstrosity attached to the courthouse. They go,
the big
what
pink
is this?
house
The
or
pink
whatever.
house. Yeah, exactly. It's you know, some people have definitely commented about the color and the size and all this other stuff, but they have no idea what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And over the last several years, we've, you know, before the pandemic, we had an open house, and we're going to continue to offer those moving forward because I feel like it needs to be more addressed. People need to understand what happens inside the jail. They have something in their mind that a jail is a linear facility with bars that close like San Quentin, and people are just confined in cages. And that's not what Humboldt County Correctional Facility is about.
Yeah.
No, that's not what the reality is. And so we are programs intensive in that department. And so what we want to do is when someone's incarcerated, it's a direct supervision facility where we have a dorm that has up to 75 inmates that's managed by one correctional deputy.
Yeah.
And every inmate is judged not necessarily on the crime that they did, but their ability to assimilate within that community in the correctional facility. And as long as they can get along with the other inmates, as long as they can get along with the staff, follow the rules, and adhere to all the standards, then they're able to move about freely within that dorm.
Yeah.
And so in those dorms, and even in our max security units, which is like the hard cells, where someone who
are isolated if they've been violent or something along those lines.
Absolutely.
Right?
We have those people that automatically assault our deputies every time we put them out of a jail cell.
Sure.
And you know, they get punched and they kick us and that kind of stuff. It's very troubling, no matter what we offer or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have to help. We have to have those secured cells, and we also have places for people that have mental illness. We have more and more people that have mental illness within the facility, as well as people that are declared incompetent to stand trial.
Yeah, there's a quote here, average population on mental health medication, 43%. I mean, the population in general is rather high these days, but I can't imagine it's more than 20% or something along those lines. So it has become somewhat of a facility that has to deal with the burden society faces with mental illness.
It's exactly right. It's even more so in the correctional facility where, you know, we have substance abuse disorders, we have mental illness, we have all sorts of hang-ups that people come into the jail with that we try to address. And mental illness is one of those things that we work with DHHS. They have support for clinicians to come in and provide that support and care and seen by a psychiatrist. So we have 43 people that are on medication, but we also have people more than that, you know, over 50% see clinicians, to see support, to get mental health treatment.
Yeah.
And that's very important to have that component. And this is one of those things too that can carry over outside of the correctional facility.
People get a sense of what the the treatment looks like or how their lives might improve. They get a taste of that in an environment where they're safe. And so that can lead to treatment down the road, right?
That's exactly right. And so a lot of the times mental illness is covered up by their substance abuse.
Yeah.
And so we have those substance abuse disorders, mental illness, those co-disorders, so to speak. And what we do is we break down, we identify them, and we try to, obviously they're pulled out of their addiction when they're in custody.
Yeah.
And there's not supposed to be any drugs in there. Sometimes people smuggle drugs in.
Yeah, and I don't know how that would happen because you know my story, I think I've been arrested.
Yeah, okay.
I've been through the jail.
Yeah.
I got searched.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to sneak anything in, but I have no idea how someone, I mean, I guess I do have an idea, but it's not polite to discuss on television.
Exactly, no.
And it's just, that's, I mean, one of the many problems and complications that you guys face.
That's right.
And it's interesting to me because there's people that run the gamut where they're like, I look at this list of programs that you guys offer, and you have credit courses from College of the Redwoods, high school equivalency exams, anger management, substance abuse counseling, religious counseling, yoga, and you go on down the list.
Right.
And for old school thinkers back in the day, it's like, well, they should be in a box.
Right.
And you throw them a meal every 6 hours, and that's basically all they should get because they're being punished.
Right.
That's an old model that hasn't worked, and you guys are evolving. Can you talk a little bit about how that's changed in your time in office? And one thing in particular that I noticed that changed, which I think is a really positive thing, and correct me if I'm wrong. But oftentimes people on the street are in, say, like a harm reduction program, like buprenorphine, right?
That's right.
And so they're addicted, and maybe they're struggling with their addiction, and they're not totally faithful to the buprenorphine program or whatever else. But they can now get buprenorphine in the jail, which, if you've never been through drug withdrawal, it's the most awful thing in the world.
Right.
And I think that is an enlightened move that you guys have made, and
Absolutely.
I wanted to commend you on that. That's part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think that alone is saving lives. I know a person who killed themselves at the jail, jumped off the second tower, and died because he couldn't face the idea that he was going to actually go through the withdrawal that he'd been avoiding for 30 years at that point.
Right.
And I just think that that's a huge progressive thing that you guys have done. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there.
There is.
There is. But no. But you're exactly right. You're passionate like I'm passionate, and like a lot of our people that work in the correctional facility. Because you're exactly right. We've looked upon the last 60 years of data that we're looking at within California and say, how is this working? What is really, really working here? And that's why when this was built 25 years ago, it's called a correctional facility, because we want to correct behavior. We want to make sure that people have the ability to be better when they get out of jail. That is the goal, is a rehabilitation program. I can't make anyone rehabilitate. I can't make anyone take a program, but what I can do is I can continuously offer someone, and it may be that 10th time that they're arrested, that they finally want to get into a medication-assisted treatment program that you're talking about. I'm very, very happy that we were like one of the first ones to start that medication-assisted treatment program, and where it's coupled with what's going on the outside, that someone can either continue their medications, like Suboxone, from the outside into the facility, or they can start in the facility and continue it on the outside.
I didn't know they could do that. That's even better in my mind.
Even better, because we want to take care of their addiction issues. And like I said before, sometimes people need to, they're stuck in their addiction. And what I can't stand is what I see over and over again is that we see people trapped in their addiction over and over again. We pass by them in Eureka, we pass by them in Arcata, and we just ignore. They become part of the landscape, right? And then we also dismiss the behavior. Someone breaks out a window, someone steals something, and they're high on drugs, they're doing this, and we dismiss it. We go, well, it's just that, nothing's gonna be done anyway. You know what? We have to hold those people accountable, because if that's your son or daughter that's addicted, then you would say, put them in jail, do something to kind of intervene in that aspect, because that might be, again, that one time when we make that intervention happen, we take them out of that street where they're fighting to get high every day. We take them out, get them in the medication-assisted treatment program. We get them a couple days clean and sober.
They stabilize.
They stabilize.
They start to think, this is better.
Yes, their head becomes clear.
Honestly,
and they say, listen, do I want to go back to that box I was living in, or can I go into a program? And then we funnel people into different programs like Betty Chin, like Teen Challenge, like the Rescue Mission, or Waterfront Recovery. All these different places are there for people that want to have help, and we're passionate about that, and we want people to get help, because the recidivism rate, in our county, is not good, but it's getting better. And as slowly people start thinking, okay, listen, programs are good, accountability is good, and that we want to make sure to get people out of their addiction, to make sure that they don't do those petty crimes, because they're addicted to drugs.
Exactly right. And that's the thing. I mean, that break of the chaos of their lives where they're no longer having to steal or lie or cheat, because they're in a place where they can't leave, and they're offered a relief from their withdrawal, which is the medical assisted treatment. I mean, I'm hard pressed. If I had been in that situation earlier, I would have quit earlier, and I think a lot of people are. So I applaud you guys providing that opportunity.
And one thing I just want to just add to it, you talk to people that were trapped in their addiction, and it took something serious that happens in their life. They might have been struck by a car. They may have their kids taken away. They may be put in jail and facing serious jail time or prison time before they would make that decision to change their life, to get into a program, to come and to change it, whatever got them there in the first place. And so I just want to just continuously tell people that accountability is a good thing. Accountability, we want to hold people accountable. We want to make sure that there's accountability, for all the petty crimes, because jail was originally supposed to be built around those petty crimes. For a person to not spend over a year in jail, and for them to have all these programs in place. But what jail's becoming now is a prison system. Because of AB 109.
And I was going to ask you about that.
So
basically, I mean, so people know, local county jails or correctional facilities have become holding pens basically for the state prison system, where inmates reach a certain shortness of sentence. I think it's under 3 years. Is that still the case?
That's correct.
Yeah, then the local jurisdictions have the responsibility of handling them, but then they get inmates who are maybe more violent or may have gang affiliations or may in a lot of ways be a lot more complicated than your run-of-the-mill prisoner in a county jail.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what the burden like that has been on our jail, and if that's still ongoing?
Yes.
And what you guys can do about it?
Yeah, it's really depressing because realistically, again, our jail was built to max hold someone a year. Now, they may be longer because we have pre-sentenced inmates.
Yeah, and they're going through process, and they want some of them want to slow it down as long as they can.
That's right. So we have due process and that kind of stuff that takes place, but realistically, a year is likely the max. So we're built to have not like big rec yards that there's no ability to see the sunshine in our county, in our county jail. There's no outside rec yard, and so that's just one aspect. It's just, it's a concrete box. That's basically, and we have people that could spend more than 3 years there. There's statutorily crimes that have to be served in county jail and not state prison, despite how many years they're serving.
Yeah.
And so there's certain jails around the state that have people that are serving 20 plus years in county jail.
Yeah, which anybody who has been to prison and been through a county jail will tell you is not preferable. They would rather go to a state prison because, like you said, there's more alternatives in terms of recreation. They just find it, I think, a freer environment because they don't have to be as concerned with some of the, I guess, the constant traffic of coming and going and that sort of thing.
It's a long-term facility, that's what they're geared. So that realignment happened in 2011.
Yeah.
And so the state wanted to get under their prison numbers, their cap. So
because they were overpopulated.
They were overpopulated. Thank you. And so they're under now. The pandemic basically cleared out a lot of state prison space to the point where the governor agreed to actually close some state prisons. And I cringe at that idea because I know eventually we're going to have to utilize those state prisons. And now they're going to be forced to build new ones, which is going to cost way more money. And still they're not going to realign. I would love for the state to realign to take all these people back to state prison and put us back to a county jail that take care of those petty offenses. Because we want to stop someone while the crime is small. And we've seen when we don't, which is what's happening now, then the crimes get bigger and bigger, and then they commit the felony, and then we have to then send them to state prison.
Well, that's another interesting thing too, is that, I mean, when you are socializing people with a group of people who may be hardened criminals or whatever else, if they're all in the same dorm, that builds a culture too, right? And that can be a violent challenge to corrections officers. That can mean more violence in the jail.
Yes.
Have you guys seen that from this development?
We have.
Okay.
We have. Assaults on other inmates, assaults on staff has gone up.
Yeah.
And so over the years we kind of released some of that information and some of those videos that correspond to some of those assaults.
Yeah.
But we're dealing with volatile people, and you're exactly right. You're assimilating in with people that are hardened criminals that should be in state prison and are serious and violent, and they're passing on some of that knowledge to some of our people that are very impressionable.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the whole, I mean, it's like the colors, I'm trying to remember the right cliche here, but the people who you run with, often you gain their stripes. And I think that if you're putting people together in the same kind of unit, that can bleed over.
Yeah, I like the saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Yeah, right? And
absolutely.
So that's, we want to have positive influences around people. So,
is there anything that you guys can do to? I mean, I know that going to the state and saying, "Hey, let's go back to the way it was 5 years ago," that's a non-starter. They don't go backward. They'd much rather spend the money to build a whole new fancy thing than to go back to the ones that are sitting on the hill. But what can be done from the local government's angle to sort of make this situation abundantly clear to the state and hopefully get them to take some of the responsibility back? Is there anything?
Well, you know what? I think what you're seeing now is there is some movement. Okay. Right? You start hearing now with Prop 4757, some of these things, these laws that were decriminalized things or made them, from felonies to misdemeanors. Yeah. Lowered the offenses. Some of that stuff has not worked, right? Yeah. We see rapid theft within all these retail shopping establishments. Yes. And with no accountability, and this goes up and down the state. So finally, the legislators are hearing from communities saying, "Do something." Mm-hmm. And so we need to hear. People need to speak up to our Assembly member, Jim Wood and Mike McGuire. Yeah. And talk to them about these issues that come up. Say, "Hey, listen, you can change this. You can change the law so if someone does commit multiple petty thefts, we can use that against them, and maybe they do need to go to state prison over that, because it is hurting us and it's hurting our stores. You go to San Francisco now and you see all these stores that are actually shut down.
I mean, not wanting to mention any local businesses for probably obvious reasons. It's affected retailers. The mall can seem like it's under siege a lot of the time, and I mean, the people have to go somewhere. I understand that, but then it does make it that much more difficult to have a family experience at the mall or somewhere else when a lot of that activity is going on.
Yes, we've seen it. I've seen it personally, and we've called it out, and the staff goes, "There's nothing we can do. You know, we can't act. It's our corporate policy." So maybe there needs to be some law change about insulating, the retail establishments for as long as they do everything correctly, under the law, that they're not going to be prosecuted, or there's some kind of immunity there that they can take action appropriately. It's like law enforcement. Use the appropriate amount of force necessary to get their property back, to put someone under citizen's arrest. And so there's some kind of immunity for that, so they can actually feel comfortable taking action.
And do something. We have about 90 seconds left, and I should have given you more time for this, but this week you guys stopped an attempted suicide.
Yes.
There was a suicide earlier this year that led to some controversy. I don't really necessarily want to get into that debate, but can you talk a little bit about being, the administrator of the jail and having those kinds of things go on, and explain to people what you guys do to prevent that kind of thing from happening?
For sure. As you see, there's 6,000 bookings a year, average daily population of 270 people. Things are going to happen within the facility. When we have 43% that are receiving medication, there's still people that need it. And so mental illness is constantly on our mind. We give people the opportunity to provide us with information that we can help support them. When someone does commit suicide in the facility, it is heartbreaking. Our correctional deputies develop relationships with people. They see them, they empathize with them, and to see that action when you walk by someone's cell and see them hanging, the reaction you get, and then is very traumatic. And then to try and do everything you can to try and save them. We're lucky that we saved one recently. We're very, very happy about that. Unfortunately, we did not save, one earlier in the year, and it weighs on us. We look at all those things very critically, every single one of them. If there's an in-custody death or any kind of incident within there, we want to make sure we learn from every time something like this happens, and to see if we can do anything as far as process improvement to help the inmate. Was there medication we could have given? Was there mental health treatment we could have provided? Anything to try and help with that situation.
We're out of time.
Okay,
for another hour, but I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
All right, take care.
For folks who missed or haven't caught the candidate forums, we have 2 more coming up. District 3 will be held on February 12th. District 1 will be held on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. Both will last for an hour, and they both begin at 7 o'clock. These are great ways to get to know your candidates and figure out who precisely you'd like to vote for. So thanks for watching with us, and we'll be happy to see you guys next week. Stay tuned, stay informed.